In a desolate, ruined city, a lone figure screams as he's chased by a vicious, dinosaur-like creature. The man, Chen Yang, sprints in a full-blown panic. He's just arrived in this world and is already being hunted by a horde of what looks like zombies. One of the mutated creatures lets out a terrifying roar, its eyes glowing with hunger. Suddenly, a zombie lunges forward, attempting a slide tackle to take Chen Yang down. Chen Yang stumbles, shocked to see the creature was smart enough to set up an ambush. The terrifying thought crosses his mind. Was he going to die immediately after being transported to this strange new world? Just as he was about to give up, he spots something on the horizon. It looks like smoke from a cooking fire. A surge of hope fills him. It must be a human settlement. He just has to make it there. But in his haste, he trips over a rock. He lets out a cry of despair as he loses his balance. He tumbles uncontrollably across the dusty ground, screaming all the way. His sprint ends with him face-planting hard into the dirt. Before he can even recover, another zombie looms over him, roaring hungrily. Chen Yang breaks down in tears, swearing he'll never randomly travel to another world again. Suddenly, a futuristic-looking gun appears in the frame, and without a moment's hesitation, fires a shot. A bullet zips through the air, heading straight for the chaos below. Just as the zombie is about to pounce, the bullet pierces its skull. Chen Yang stares in disbelief. The dead creature collapses right on top of him, pinning him to the ground. Trapped beneath the heavy corpse, Chen Yang frantically tries to figure out what's going on. High above, his unseen savior calmly reloads their sniper rifle after taking the perfect shot. The mysterious sniper continues to pick off the remaining zombies one by one with expert precision. In a matter of seconds, the entire horde that was chasing Chen Yang is eliminated. Still pinned under the corpse, Chen Yang looks around in a daze, slowly realizing that he has been saved. A voice calls out to him. His savior, a young woman with long red hair and a massive rifle, stands before him. She looks down at him with an annoyed expression, asking how long he plans on hugging the dead zombie. Chen Yang finally looks down, his eyes widening in horror as he realizes what he's been holding onto. He shoves the corpse away in disgust, screaming for it not to touch him. He turns to his savior with an awkward, grateful smile, wanting to thank her properly. But his thanks are cut short when she shoves the barrel of her rifle in his face, demanding to know his name. With his hands up, Chen Yang nervously introduces himself, trying to appear as harmless as possible. The woman, Li Lu, isn't convinced. She asks him why he suddenly appeared near their camp, and Chen Yang jokes that he just got lost. But Li Lu calls his bluff. She tells him she clearly heard him muttering something about traveling between worlds just moments ago. Chen Yang freezes. He knows that if he tells her the truth, she'll think he's completely insane. Seeing him hesitate, Li Lu cocks her rifle, warning him that his silence could cost him his life. But just as she's about to pull the trigger, she catches a scent in the air, a delicious smell she's never encountered before. Her eyes narrow as she traces the smell back to Chen Yang, demanding to know what he's hiding in his bag. Sensing a shift in the situation, Chen Yang's demeanor changes. With a sly smile, he pulls a small, red package from his bag. He holds up a pack of spicy strips, explaining that he was about to eat them when the zombies attacked. Li Lu stares at the package, completely baffled. In this ruined world, she can hardly believe that what he's holding is actually food. Seeing her reaction, Chen Yang knows he has the upper hand. He casually offers her a piece, turning the tables completely. Li Lu is suspicious. The bright red color of the snack is unnatural, making her wonder if it might be poisonous. But the smell is intoxicating, and she hasn't eaten in 2 days. Her hunger begins to overpower her caution. Finally, she gives in. With a shout of frustration, she snatches the packet from Chen Yang's hand. She decides she'll eat first and worry about the consequences later. Without another moment of hesitation, she takes her first bite. Her eyes go wide. The taste is unlike anything she's ever experienced. She's completely overwhelmed. The simple aroma of flour and oil is a long-forgotten luxury, and she savors every bit of it. Chen Yang watches her reaction with a triumphant grin. His gamble paid off. In this post-apocalyptic wasteland, he realizes, no one can refuse the temptation of real food. The scene shifts to a flashback. Not long ago, Chen Yang was just an ordinary corporate drone, staring blankly at his computer screen. His life took a turn when, just a few days ago, he was suddenly fired from his job, losing his only source of income. He left the office building feeling dejected, carrying a cardboard box with all his personal belongings. Back in his empty apartment, he began to unpack. It was then that he made a bizarre discovery. Inside a box of snacks he had ordered online, he found a strange, unassuming ring. Driven by curiosity, he picked it up and slipped it onto his finger. The moment the ring was on, his surroundings distorted with a flash of digital noise. And just like that, he found himself in a completely different place. A ruined wasteland with a giant, mutated rat staring him down. The creature was massive, with glowing red eyes and sharp teeth, snarling as it crept toward him. Chen Yang panicked, taking in the skeletal corpse and the monstrous rat. He had no idea where he was. The giant rat lunged, ready to attack. In a moment of pure terror, he desperately wished to go home, a thought that seemed to activate the ring and pull him away just in time. A vortex of light and energy swirls around him as the ring activates, pulling him out of the wasteland. He lands in a heap back in his apartment, right next to the cardboard box he was unpacking. He was back. He looks around, his head spinning, confirming that he had truly returned home. He stares at the ring in amazement. For some reason, this mysterious object allowed him to travel freely between his reality and the apocalyptic world. His mind started racing. Based on all the comics and stories he knew, he quickly pieced things together. A brilliant idea began to form. In the apocalypse, food is the most valuable currency, but things like gold might be worthless junk. He realized that if he could exploit this difference, trading cheap modern food for valuable future resources, he could become ridiculously wealthy and climb straight to the top of society. And so, his grand plan was born. The scene returns to the present, where his plan is already in motion. Li Lu is still lost in the flavor of the spicy strips. In the blink of an eye, she finishes the entire packet, looking down at the empty wrapper with a hint of sadness. She apologizes sheepishly, admitting that the food was just too delicious to stop eating. Chen Yang reassures her that it's fine. He then begins to spin a story, claiming to be from an organization that has plenty of food, but needs to trade for other supplies. Li Lu is stunned. An organization with a surplus of food is completely unheard of in her world. Seeing Chen Yang, she realizes she's looking at a member of one right now. Sensing an opportunity of a lifetime, she immediately offers her services, eagerly telling him she can be his guide. She promises she can help him find anything he wants to trade for. All she asks for in return is a commission of just 15 packs of spicy strips a month. Chen Yang pretends to think it over, stroking his chin. He tells her it's not impossible, but he can't hire a complete stranger. He starts a playful interrogation. When he asks for her name, she promptly replies, Li Lu. He then asks for her gender, which earns him an angry shout. She tells him to see for himself. He moves on to her age. After a moment of hesitation, she admits she's 19. Chen Yang scoffs, exclaiming there's no way she's only 19. He points out that for someone from the apocalypse, she seems a bit too well-developed. Realizing he may have gone too far, Chen Yang clears his throat and gets back to the matter at hand. He formally agrees to hire her, confirming her monthly salary of 15 packs of spicy strips. Li Lu is overjoyed. She clenches her fists in excitement and immediately starts calling him boss. Chen Yang then asks a pointed question. Did it ever cross her mind to just kill him and steal his food? Li Lu scoffs, saying she's not stupid. She knows the difference between getting one full meal and securing a source of food for every meal. With the deal settled, she tells him it's time to go. Chen Yang, now officially her boss, tells her to lead the way. After a short walk, she gestures towards a cluster of dilapidated buildings, proudly announcing that this is her camp. She introduces the place by its official name, Grey Rat District D. Chen Yang is stunned. He thinks to himself that this so-called camp looks even worse than a slum. But he quickly shakes off his disappointment, deciding to settle in and start looking for valuable things he can trade. As they walk through the camp, the other survivors watch Chen Yang with weary, untrusting eyes. The residents are hardened and cautious, clearly not welcoming of strangers. Li Lu notices his nervousness and reassures him, explaining that it's normal for everyone to be wary of an outsider. She then leads him to a small, makeshift shelter, inviting him into her place to rest for a bit. Chen Yang gets a sly look on his face, thinking to himself that he can't help but be a little excited to be invited into a pretty girl's home. The metal door to her home creaks open, but his excitement instantly fades when he sees the interior. It's a sparse, run-down room with peeling walls and minimal furniture. His face twists in shock as he tries to find a polite way to comment, stammering that her lifestyle is pretty simple. Ignoring his horrified expression, Lilu casually tells him to have a seat while she gets him something. She pours him a mug of water, beginning to speak with a hint of pride about her home, telling him not to look down on Gray Rat District D just because it's a small camp. She hands him the cup, proudly stating that even a small sparrow has all its organs, defending her humble camp. Getting straight to business, she asks him what he wants to trade for. She confidently guarantees that as long as the camp has it, she can find it for him. Chen Yang sips his water and casually makes his request. He needs gold and silver. Li Lu is completely dumbfounded. She asks him why on earth he would want that kind of trash. Chen Yang can hardly contain his excitement. The very same trash that she scoffs at is worth a fortune where he comes from. His plan is going to work. Li Lu explains that before the Great Cataclysm, precious metals like gold were valuable. But now she says you can't eat gold. In this world, the only things that matter are what you can barter for: food, water, and weapons. Playing the part of a wise boss, Chen Yang says that since this is their first deal, what matters most is building mutual trust. To prove his point, he unzips his large duffel bag. He opens it wide, revealing it's packed to the brim with snacks, canned drinks, and other modern foods. Li Lu gasps in pure astonishment. It's a treasure trove of delicacies she hasn't seen in years. Chen Yang then makes her an irresistible offer. If the deal for gold works out, 1/10 of all the food in the bag will be her bonus, on top of her commission. 1/10, the amount is so staggering that Li Lu can barely comprehend it, her hands trembling as she looks at the bag. She still thinks it's a huge loss to trade precious food for useless gold, but Chen Yang firmly tells her to just do as he says. He entrusts the mission to her completely, telling her he'll wait right here for her to come back. Fired up with motivation, Li Lu clutches the bag and promises her boss that she will not betray his trust. She grabs her trusted rifle, ready to head out on her first official mission. She gives him one last look before heading out the door, promising to be back as soon as she can. With Li Lu gone, the weight of his gamble settles in. That bag of snacks cost him his last 100 yuan. For his plan to become a reality, this deal absolutely had to succeed. He lies back on the flimsy cot to wait. With no internet and no phone signal, time begins to crawl. He starts to scan the messy room, looking for anything to pass the time. As he's lying there bored, his eyes drift to the wall where he spots what looks like an old newspaper clipping. Curiosity getting the better of him, he gets up to take a closer look at the papers plastered on the wall. He reads one of the headlines and freezes. The date is clearly printed, year 2235. The articles describe a great cataclysm caused by nuclear bombs that ravaged the planet. The fallout from the war led to widespread gene pollution, corrupting the very building blocks of life. This pollution is what created the mutated zombies that now roam the wasteland everywhere. An hour later, after reading through all the articles, the shocking truth finally sinks in. He's on his own planet, Blue Star, but 200 years in the future. He now understands. What Li Lu called the Great Cataclysm was actually a devastating nuclear war. Tens of thousands of bombs had wiped out half of the world's population, scorching the surface of the planet. The war didn't just kill people. It fundamentally changed the planet's ecosystem, creating the desolate wasteland he found himself in. The final piece of the puzzle falls into place. He hadn't traveled across space to a different planet. He had traveled through time. Just as he's processing this mind-bending revelation, he hears the familiar creak of the door opening. Li Lu is back. She stands in the doorway with a confident smirk, announcing her return. She tosses the bag she was carrying onto the floor. It lands with a heavy metallic thud. She explains that there wasn't much gold or silver to be found in the camp, since nobody bothers to collect the useless junk. Chen Yang rushes over and begins to search through the bag she brought back. He opens it wide, and his jaw drops. It's filled to the brim with solid gold bars gleaming in the dim light. A manic grin spreads across his face as he lets out a cry of pure, unadulterated joy. His plan had worked perfectly. He was going to be rich. Back in the wasteland, Chen Yang's eyes widened in disbelief. The junk he'd collected was actually pure gold. He laughed maniacally, cradling a gold bar. He mused that if it weren't for this strange new world, he'd be stuck in eternal poverty. Just then, a voice cut through his celebration. It was Li Lu, the sniper who saved him. She remarked that the food he gave her was worth far more than all this gold. She had taken the liberty of trading some of it for a Tier 1 enhancement potion for him, explaining it was a low-grade but high-purity serum that could be injected without risk. This was a Tier 1 enhancement potion, a rare item in this desolate world, capable of strengthening the human body. Li Lu looked at him seriously, pointing out the obvious. He was just an ordinary person, not an enhanced one. Without any power, he'd be helpless against even a few low-level zombies. The potion would at least give him a fighting chance. She handed him the vial, warning him that danger was everywhere, and he couldn't rely on luck forever to survive. Trying to hide his secret, Chen Yang coughed and proudly claimed his organization was powerful enough to keep him safe during his travels, but he thanked her for the gesture anyway. With his new treasure and the enhancement potion secured, he zipped up his bag. Their first trade had been a success, and Chen Yang announced it was time for him to head back. As he slung the bag over his shoulder, he promised to return the next day to settle her monthly salary. And with a cheerful "I'm off," he turned and walked away. Li Lu watched him leave, her mind racing. For him to travel alone across the wasteland without a scratch, she knew he was hiding something big. She glanced at the worthless piece of gold he'd left behind. Then again, she mused, who in this wasteland didn't have secrets? She shrugged it off and took out one of the spicy snack sticks he'd given her, taking a big bite. Her expression immediately softened. The snack was incredibly tasty. She decided that as long as he could keep providing this kind of food, his secrets didn't matter. Meanwhile, Chen Yang walked through the desolate city ruins, looking for a deserted spot to make his trip back. Once he was sure he was alone, he raised his hand, activating the mysterious power that allowed him to travel between worlds. The air around him began to distort. In a blinding flash of digital light, the world around him dissolved, and Chen Yang was pulled back through the dimensional rift, vanishing from the wasteland. In an instant, Chen Yang was back in his apartment, the strange, glitchy effect of his interdimensional travel fading around him. His heart pounded with anticipation. He immediately dropped to his knees, fumbling with the zipper on his bag to see if his treasure made it back with him. The bag opened to reveal the gleaming gold bars, safe and sound. A huge laugh of relief and triumph escaped his lips. He held one of the bars aloft, shouting with joy. The gold was still here, it wasn't a dream. A confident smirk spread across his face. All he had to do was take this to a gold shop, exchange it for cash, and he would finally be rich. He fell into a daydream, imagining himself lounging in a pile of cash, declaring that he, Chen Yang, was about to climb to the very peak of life. But he quickly snapped back to reality. He had to be smart about this and control how much he exchanged at once, or he'd attract unwanted attention. For a moment, he paused, leaning against his bag, the initial excitement giving way to the serious reality of his situation. Hiding the gold under his bed, he realized the biggest problem. There was no way to explain where all this gold came from. His eyes then fell on the potion Li Lu had given him. After catching his breath, his attention shifted from the gold to the glowing blue vial. He picked up the enhancement potion, the strange liquid swirling inside. He hesitated, staring at the vial. Should he use this mysterious potion or not? He thought back to what Li Lu had said. She was right. His body was way too weak. In the apocalypse, he couldn't even beat a regular zombie. His expression hardened with resolve. If he wanted to keep traveling to the wasteland and survive, he had to strengthen himself first. But his determination was momentarily broken by confusion. The potion didn't come with any instructions. He scratched his head, complaining about the terrible user experience. He grit his teeth. He pressed the injector against his arm and pushed the plunger. The glowing blue liquid surged into his veins as the syringe emptied. He pulled the empty device away, tossing it aside as he waited for the effects to kick in. He waited but felt nothing. Staring at his arm, he wondered if the potion was a dud. He didn't feel any different at all. But just as that thought formed, his heart slammed against his ribs. A deep, violent thudding shook his entire frame. The transformation was beginning. He clenched his fist, and the empty syringe shattered in his grip from the sudden surge of power. His entire body erupted in a wave of intense heat as a red aura flared around him. He gritted his teeth, his muscles spasming uncontrollably. He collapsed to the floor, slamming his fist down as unimaginable pain shot through his body. Blood began to seep through his clothes. He cried out, curling up on the floor. It hurt so much, a raw, burning agony. He thrashed around, screaming that it felt like every single one of his muscles was being torn apart and rebuilt from scratch. The potion was violently rewriting his entire physiology, a brutal and agonizing process that pushed him to the brink of consciousness. His clothes began to tear as his body rapidly expanded, his screams echoing through the apartment. Spikes of pure energy burst from his back as his body continued its grotesque transformation, reshaping him into something far more powerful. And then, as suddenly as it began, the pain stopped. He weakly propped himself up, his hand trembling. He slowly got to his feet, panting heavily. His jacket and shirt were gone, torn to shreds, and his body was now covered in a thick layer of sweat and grime. He looked down at his hands and then his chest in shock. His previously lean frame was now packed with dense, well-defined muscle. Staring at his reflection, he could hardly believe his eyes. He touched his chest, wondering if this powerful new body was really his. After a quick shower, he flexed in front of the mirror, grinning from ear to ear. His new muscles could rival Arnold's. He joked to himself that at least his head didn't get pointy, marveling at how insanely strong the wasteland tech was. He couldn't help but wonder, if this was just the lowest tier of enhancement, what would a higher tier potion do? Turn him into One-Punch Man. Just as he was admiring his new physique, a woman's voice called out from the living room, asking for help opening the door. He quickly responded, "Coming." He walked out of his room and opened the front door to the apartment. His flatmate, a D-list actress named Shuya, stumbled in, apologizing for forgetting her key. But her apology died on her lips as she looked up and saw him. Chen Yang smiled, telling her not to worry about it since they were roommates. But Shuya froze mid-stride, her apology dying on her lips as her eyes locked onto his new appearance. She stared, speechless, at his chiseled, muscular physique. Her mind went blank for a second before a deep blush spread across her face. In her mind, however, Shuya was having a completely different reaction, giggling with delight at the unexpected sight. Chen Yang noticed her flustered state and asked what was wrong, but she just waved her hands, trying to compose herself. Before he could react, she reached out and poked his chest, exclaiming that she never noticed before how incredibly stacked he was. Chen Yang immediately flushed with embarrassment. She continued to tease him, jokingly asking if he'd found out her audition failed, and decided to comfort her by showing off his body. Chen Yang panicked, his face turning beet red as he stammered that it wasn't like that at all. He frantically yelled that he just forgot to put on clothes, and then bolted back to his room, leaving a bewildered Shuya behind. Safely back in his room, he clutched his head in despair, convinced that Shuya would now think he was a total pervert. But he quickly shook it off. There was no point overthinking it. He had a much more important task at hand, selling his gold bars. Having gotten dressed, Chen Yang headed out into the city, ready to turn his treasure into cash. As he walked, he realized something amazing. The bag on his shoulder, which was packed with heavy gold bars, felt like it weighed nothing at all. Then he noticed something else. His vision seemed different. His eyes glowed as he focused on something in the distance. His eyesight had become incredibly sharp, allowing him to zoom in on a small sign that was hundreds of meters down the street. He could clearly read every word on the sign. His vision was now as powerful as a high-powered telescope. It wasn't just his sight, his hearing was enhanced too. From all the way across the street, he could perfectly overhear two women gossiping about someone named Old Lee, whose wife was cheating on him. He chuckled to himself, amazed that his hearing had also improved so dramatically. He clenched his fist, thrilled. The enhancement potion had boosted all his physical stats in a very thorough way, making him superhuman. He grinned. Even after a nuclear war, the wasteland's technology was still 200 years ahead of his time, and its value was definitely worth exploring. He finally arrived at his destination. Deciding that a large chain brand might not take gold from an unknown source, he opted for a privately owned business, Lin's Gold Shop. With a confident smirk, he strode towards the entrance, ready to make his first fortune. Stepping inside, Chen Yang was greeted by an employee in the lavishly decorated shop. He walked up to the counter and confidently asked if the boss was in, stating he had a deal to discuss. The employee smiled warmly, assuring him that she could help him with whatever he needed. With a heavy thud, Chen Yang dropped his bag onto the counter, the sheer weight of it making the employee flinch. He opened the bag to reveal the gleaming gold bars inside, telling her he didn't think she was authorized to handle this transaction. The sight left her completely stunned. She stared, wide-eyed and speechless, at the incredible amount of pure gold sitting in the bag. Chen Yang maintained his cool composure, simply asking what she meant. The employee's expression instantly changed. Realizing the gravity of the situation, she quickly and respectfully asked him to follow her. She led him to a private meeting room in the back of the shop. A large man with a thick beard and heavy gold chains greeted him, introducing himself as Lin Tao, the owner. They shook hands, and Chen Yang simply gave his surname as Chen. Lin Tao gestured for him to have a seat, his friendly demeanor barely hiding his shrewd business sense. Without wasting any time, Chen Yang took out 3 of the gold bars and placed them firmly on the table. Lin Tao's eyes lit up at the sight of the pure gold. He confirmed with Chen Yang that he intended to sell them. Chen Yang leaned back with a confident grin and confirmed that was correct. The shop owner picked up one of the bars, his experienced hands feeling the weight and texture of the metal. Lin Tao stated that since the total amount was quite large, he would need to test its purity with his instruments, asking if that was acceptable. Chen Yang casually waved his hand, telling the owner to go right ahead. He took a calm sip of his drink, thinking to himself that gold is completely useless in the wasteland. No one would ever bother faking it, so he had nothing to worry about. Lin Tao then took out a handheld scanner and began to check the composition of the gold bar, the first step in what was sure to be a tense negotiation. Inside a private gold shop, the owner, a man named Lin Tao, inspects one of Chen Yang's bars with a specialized tool. His eyes widen in disbelief. It's pure 24-karat gold. Across the table, Chen Yang leans back with a confident smile, casually asking for the shop owner's assessment of the gold bars he's brought. Impressed by the quality, Lin Tao makes a generous offer. He quotes a recycling price of 400 yuan per gram. Hearing the number, Chen Yang's hand tightens, the disposable cup he's holding cracking under the pressure of his excitement. His mind races, calculating the total. At 400 per gram, a single 1-kilogram bar would fetch 400,000. For the 3 bars he brought, that would be a staggering 1.2 million. The thought of making a full 1.2 million yuan brings a greedy, triumphant grin to Chen Yang's face as he imagines himself swimming in cash. But just as he's about to celebrate, Lin Tao throws a wrench in the plan. He agrees to the price but says he'll need to see official purchase receipts. Chen Yang's confident smile doesn't falter. He admits he doesn't have any receipts but assures the owner that the gold source is absolutely clean and won't cause any trouble. Lin Tao isn't easily convinced. He reminds Chen Yang that talk is cheap and that taking on such a large, undocumented batch of gold is a huge risk for his business. Changing his strategy, Chen Yang sets his cup down and addresses the owner directly, his tone becoming more serious. Boss Lin. He stands up, deciding to take control of the negotiation. He tells the boss he's a straightforward person and wants to skip the usual haggling. Chen Yang then lays out his terms, telling Lin Tao to name a final price. If he can accept it, they have a deal. And if they can't agree, he says coolly, they'll just forget the deal and treat it as making a new friend, putting all the pressure back on the shop owner. Seeing Chen Yang's confidence, Lin Tao relents. He claims he'll suffer a loss and offers to recycle it at 280 per gram for a total of 840,000. Chen Yang immediately agrees, replying, "Now that sounds more like it." Moments later, a notification buzzes on Chen Yang's phone. A bank transfer of 840,000 yuan has been successfully deposited into his account. With the money secured, Chen Yang smiles, leaving the gold bars on the table and telling the stunned owner it was a pleasure doing business. As they part ways, Lin Tao eagerly suggests they continue working together if Chen Yang gets more goods. Chen simply gives a non-committal response, saying he'll think about it. Walking away from the gold shop, Chen Yang can't help but grin to himself. Just 3 bars of gold had earned him over 800,000 yuan. He glances at his shoulder bag, which is still filled with dozens more gold bars. The thought of selling all of them makes his grin widen. This was just the beginning of his new life. The sheer excitement is too much to contain. He throws his arms up in the middle of a public square, shouting with pure joy that he is finally rich, completely unaware of the chaos unfolding back at his apartment. After his public celebration, the scene transitions back to the apartment complex where Chen Yang lives. Inside, his flatmate, an office worker named Joe Dandon, is in a frantic hurry. With a piece of toast in her mouth, she calls out, wondering where her phone is. After her other roommate points it out, she spots her phone on the coffee table and quickly snatches it. But as she turns to leave, she bumps right into Chen Yang, who has just returned. Chen Yang smiles, greeting his roommate and asking why she's rushing out in such a panic. Before Dandon can answer, their other roommate, Shuya, appears and explains that Dandon had just gotten home when her boss called her back for overtime. Chen Yang shrugs with a smile, mentioning what bad timing it is. He explains that he just made a small fortune and was planning to treat both of them to a celebratory dinner. Annoyed that she has to miss out, Dandon yells for Shuya to eat her share of the expensive meal. Shuya enthusiastically agrees. Before heading out, Dandon points a finger at Chen Yang, playfully warning him not to try and make a move on Shuya while she isn't around to supervise. With a final cheerful wave, she tells them to have fun and disappears out the door. Once they're alone, Shuya smirks at Chen Yang. She playfully calls him President Chen and asks where he's taking her for dinner. Riding high on his success, Chen Yang grins and suggests one of the most expensive places in the city, the Regal Grand Hotel. Shuya is completely stunned by his suggestion, asking if he's kidding since it's a 5-star hotel. Chen Yang coolly confirms that he is absolutely serious. He gives her a confident smile and tells her he'll see her tonight, leaving her to get ready while he heads back to his room. But his day isn't over yet. Back in his room, Chen Yang gets right back to work, his mind focused on one thing: money. Sitting on the floor, he pulls out the dozens of gold bars still left in his duffel bag, determined to cash them all in by the end of the day. Without wasting a moment, he heads out into the city once more, ready to continue his gold-selling spree. He begins a whirlwind tour of the city's gold buyers, making one successful deal after another and shaking hands as his bank account grows. His journey takes him to another establishment, where he makes another easy sale to an older, well-dressed woman, converting more of his stash into digital currency. At every stop, the story is the same. The buyers are thrilled with the quality of his gold, and as one sees him off at the door, she eagerly asks him to visit again soon. After a long day of selling, Chen Yang checks his phone one last time. His face flushes with excitement as he stares at the screen. His account balance has reached a whopping 4 million yuan. He throws his arms into the air in pure triumph, shouting to the sky. With 4 million in his account, he feels invincible, even giving a cheer for the apocalypse that made it all possible. But his celebration is cut short when his phone suddenly rings. He looks down and sees the call is from his good friend, Guangjai. Still buzzing with excitement, Chen Yang answers cheerfully, joking with his friend for calling him out of the blue. On the other end of the line, his friend Guangjai is at his desk, working on a digital drawing. Without wasting time on pleasantries, Guangjai immediately expresses his concern, asking why Chen Yang didn't tell him about losing his job and offering to lend him money for rent. The unexpected question brings Chen Yang to a dead stop in the middle of the street. His joyful mood evaporates, replaced by stunned silence. He quickly tries to play it cool, laughing and assuring Guangjai that he definitely isn't short on cash at the moment. But the carefree act fades as suspicion creeps in. He demands to know who told Guangjai that he lost his job, wondering how such news could have spread so fast. On the other end, Guangjai hesitates, clearly uncomfortable with revealing his source. A tense moment of silence hangs between the two friends as Chen Yang waits for an answer. Finally, Guangjai reveals the truth. It was Chen Yang's ex-girlfriend, Feng Jia. She had told him about the job and asked him to reach out and help, claiming it wasn't appropriate for her to do so herself. Chen Yang is left speechless, the name of his ex echoing in his mind as an image of her appears, ending the chapter on a dramatic and personal cliffhanger. The chapter opens with Chen Yang's friend, Guangjai, on the phone. He asks Chen Yang why he broke up with his ex-girlfriend, Feng Jia, mentioning that she still seems to care about him. On the other end of the line, Chen Yang explains that her mother wanted her to be with someone who could afford a house in the city, something he couldn't do with his family's situation. Hearing this, Guangzha gets fired up, declaring that such materialistic expectations just make him more determined to stay single. Chen Yang then grows curious, asking how Feng Jia knew about his current situation since they hadn't spoken since the breakup. Guangzhai reveals it was a rich brat named Jiang Jinglong, a man who's always had a thing for Feng Jia, who spilled the beans. He continues, explaining the shocking truth. Jiang Jinglong had bought shares in Chen Yang's old company just to get him fired by name, a petty move designed to hurt him. The revelation hits Chen Yang like a bolt of lightning. A fiery aura erupts around him as the pieces fall into place, his anger reaching a boiling point. Sensing the shift in his friend's tone, Guangzha gets worried, pleading with Chen Yang to calm down and not do anything reckless. But Chen Yang scoffs at the suggestion, retorting that he's not the kind of guy to resort to stupid actions. Relieved, Guangzhai decides to end the call, trusting that his friend has everything under control. Chen Yang calmly says his goodbyes, his expression giving nothing away as he strolls down the street. Once the call ends, however, his calm facade shatters. He clenches his fist in fury, muttering about how shameless Jiang Jinglong truly is. His anger is quickly replaced by a sudden panic as he checks the time. He's running late and needs to hurry to a hotel. Without wasting another second, he breaks into a sprint, dashing through the city streets as dusk settles. He finally arrives in front of a grand, modern hotel, looking up at the impressive building. Packing outside the entrance, Chen Yang impatiently waits for his roommate, Shuya, wondering where she could be. Just then, a luxurious black car screeches to a halt right in front of him, its headlights gleaming in the night. A woman's voice calls out his name as a pair of elegant, high-heeled legs emerge from the car. It's Shuya, who has transformed into a stunning beauty with long, silver hair. She gracefully steps out, apologizing for being late, leaving Chen Yang momentarily speechless. Her dazzling appearance doesn't just capture his attention. Nearby onlookers are completely starstruck, with two men gawking in disbelief and wondering if they've just seen a celebrity. Shuya snaps Chen Yang out of his daze, asking him why he's spacing out. A blushing Chen Yang admits that even though they've been roommates for 3 months, he never realized just how beautiful she was until now. Shuya flashes a confident smile, explaining that since he was treating her to a fancy dinner, she couldn't let him lose face. She playfully asks if her transformation was a success. She then confidently links her arm with his, catching the still flustered Chen Yang completely off guard. Noticing his nervousness, she reassures him that it's just basic social etiquette and nothing to get worked up about. They arrive at a luxurious restaurant with a stunning view of the city skyline. A waiter approaches their table to hand them the menu. Shuya elegantly flips through the menu, taking in the restaurant's offerings. But her composure breaks when she sees the prices. Her eyes widen as she realizes just how absurdly expensive everything is. Chen Yang, however, doesn't even flinch. He casually hands the menu back to the waiter and orders all 3 signature dishes, plus 2 of the pricey treasure crabs. Shuya immediately jumps to her feet, aghast. She tells him the 2 crabs alone cost 1,000 yuan and questions why he would order something so extravagant. Trying to play it cool, Chen Yang tells her to relax, assuring her that he's doing well financially and can easily afford the meal. Shuya isn't buying it. With her arms crossed, she calls him out, reminding him that he's been surviving on budget takeout lately and telling him not to pretend to be rich. She playfully puts him in a headlock, joking that if he's suddenly rich, she won't feel guilty at all. In fact, she'll consider it robbing the rich to feed the poor. After finishing their delicious meal, they leave the restaurant arm in arm. Chen Yang suggests they find another place for a second round. Shuya turns down the offer, admitting she's completely stuffed from the incredible dinner. But their pleasant evening is interrupted. An arrogant voice calls out Chen Yang's name, and they turn to see Jiang Jinglong standing there with a smug look on his face. Chen Yang's expression darkens. He can't believe he's run into the very man who got him fired. He remarks sarcastically on the coincidence, noting how, in a city as big as Dijon, he still managed to run into someone he'd rather avoid. Jiang Jinglong scoffs, looking down on Chen Yang with contempt. He questions whether a loser like him even deserves to be at a 5-star hotel. Chen Yang fires back with a sharp retort, asking if Jiang Jinglong's family owns this hotel too, and if he's planning on having him thrown out of here as well. Jiang Jinglong lets out a smug laugh, confirming that Chen Yang's suspicion is correct. He knows exactly why his old classmate was fired. Shuya, sensing the hostility, turns to Chen Yang and asks if this arrogant man is a friend of his. But Jiang Jinglong only has eyes for Shuya. He's completely captivated, rudely licking his lips as he takes in her stunning appearance. A wicked idea forms in his mind. This is the perfect chance to expose Chen Yang as a broke loser and then swoop in to steal the beautiful girl for himself. Putting on a mask of concern, he approaches Shuya and warns her not to be fooled by Chen Yang's act. He claims to know Chen Yang inside and out, painting him as a dirt-poor failure who just got fired and can barely afford rent. He continues his verbal assault, insisting that Chen Yang is only at this fancy hotel to put on a show, blowing all his savings to act rich. He frames his old classmate as a classic scammer who dazzles women with false appearances, only to leave them with nothing. Chen Yang finally snaps, infuriated by the blatant lies. He furiously accuses Jiang Jinglong of assuming everyone is as low and despicable as he is. Shuya, however, interrupts with a calm, amused smile. She turns to Jiang Jinglong and sarcastically asks if he's simply giving her a kindly warning. Taking the bait, Jiang Jinglong puffs up his chest and declares himself a hero, claiming that nothing upsets him more than seeing a beautiful woman being deceived. He then smoothly transitions into a business pitch, offering Shuya a position as a brand ambassador for his company and presenting his card. The card reveals his identity, Jiang Jinglong, chairman of Heisheng Games. But his attempt to impress her fails miserably. Shuya slaps the card out of his hand, coldly stating that she's not interested. Not one to give up, Jiang Jinglong insists she reconsider, boasting about the excellent pay and benefits for his ambassadors. Shuya delivers the final blow. She looks him dead in the eye and announces that she's Chen Yang's girlfriend, and she doesn't like hearing him badmouth her boyfriend. The revelation leaves Chen Yang completely stunned. She's not done yet. With a smirk, she adds that with a chairman like him, his company is bound to go bankrupt soon. Jiang Jinglong is left sputtering in rage. As they turn to leave, Chen Yang gives her an impressed thumbs up. Shuya whispers with a laugh, reminding him that she's a professional actress after all. She then hooks her arm through his, loudly calling him darling and telling him not to waste time on trash. They walk away, leaving a furious Jiang Jinglong in their wake. Seething with uncontrollable anger, Jiang Jinglong clenches his fist. He can't believe this stupid woman would choose a loser over him. His rage is interrupted by Feng Jia, Chen Yang's ex, who coldly says his name. But Jiang Jinglong is too consumed by his anger, swearing that Chen Yang will pay for this humiliation. Looking completely unimpressed by his tantrum, Feng Jia asks him to take her home. Jiang Jinglong tries to salvage the night, suggesting they go for more drinks at a bar he's booked. But Feng Jia shuts him down immediately, stating she's not interested. To add insult to injury, she tells him she'll pay him back for her share of the dinner bill before turning to leave, leaving Jiang Jinglong utterly baffled. The scene shifts, following a car as it drives along the road at night. Feng Jia walks to her own car without a backward glance, completely ignoring Jiang Jinglong as he desperately calls after her. The car door slams shut, sealing his defeat for the night. She speeds away, leaving him standing alone and abandoned on the street. Now truly alone, Jiang Jinglong's humiliation turns back to rage. He's furious that Feng Jia, who works at his company, dared to treat him with such disrespect. The scene transitions to a peaceful, wide shot of a bridge under the starry night sky. Far from the drama, Chen Yang and Shuya are taking a leisurely stroll. Shuya comments on how annoying that guy was, and Chen Yang agrees. As they stop to look out over the water, Chen Yang grows serious. He tells her that running into Jiang Jinglong helped him figure something important out. Shuya turns to him, her expression full of curiosity, and asks what he figured out. Chen Yang explains that ever since he came into his newfound wealth, he's been wondering what to do with it, which field he should enter to build something big. He clenches his fist, his eyes filled with a new, unshakable resolve. Against the night sky, he announces, "Now I've decided." With a sudden burst of passion, he declares his new goal. He's going to start his own game company and completely crush Jiang Jinglong. Shuya looks at him, shocked by his sudden declaration. Shuya quickly expresses her concern, warning him that starting a company is incredibly risky and urging him not to act rashly out of anger. But Chen Yang isn't worried. He gives her a mysterious, confident smile and simply tells her to relax and enjoy the show. Later that night, the camera pans up to the apartment complex where Chen Yang lives, a single light shining from one of the windows. Back in his apartment, Chen Yang takes a shower, his mind buzzing with his new plan. He realizes that simply smuggling gold from the wasteland isn't enough. He knows that while it's working for now, once his assets grow larger, his unexplained wealth will definitely attract attention, maybe even a full-blown investigation. Stepping out of the shower, he comes to a firm conclusion. To protect himself and his future, he needs to legitimize his gains by building a real, successful business of his own. His mind is set. He quickly dries himself off, ready to put his new plan into motion. He slips on his slippers, moving with a newfound sense of purpose. Sitting down at his desk, another critical piece of the puzzle falls into place. He realizes that aside from resources like gold, the wasteland's single biggest advantage is its advanced technology. He recalls Li Lu mentioning that it's only been 10 years since the cataclysm in the other world. That means the technological knowledge from that highly advanced era shouldn't be completely lost yet. His imagination runs wild as he pictures the possibilities. If he looks carefully, he's sure he can find and recruit all sorts of experts and geniuses who are now struggling to survive in the wasteland. This becomes the cornerstone of his strategy. He imagines recruiting these world-class experts. In a post-apocalyptic world where people are starving, he calculates that he could hire them for next to nothing, as little as 15 packs of spicy strips a month. A triumphant, cunning smile spreads across his face. With technology from 200 years in the future, creating a few revolutionary games will be a piece of cake. He sees a clear path to not only building an empire, but completely crushing Jiang Jinglong in the process. The story continues back in the modern world, focusing on a seemingly ordinary apartment complex. Inside, Chen Yang gets off the phone, having just received confirmation that his application to register a new company has been submitted. With a confident smile, he thanks the person on the other end for their help. He decides to leave the rest of the company registration to the agency. His next priority is to start hearing people. But before any of that, he needs to hurry and make another trip to the wasteland. He heads to a supermarket, thinking to himself that he should stop bringing snacks from his time, since their future production dates are a dead giveaway. He knows that if someone with ill intentions were to notice a production date from 200 years in the future, it would cause a lot of unnecessary trouble. As he pushes his cart through the aisles, one of the wheels lets out a loud, rhythmic squeak. He makes his way over to the fresh food section to place an order. A friendly cashier smiles and asks the handsome young man what she can get for him. Chen Yang casually requests an order of 25 kilograms of pork. The cashier's eyes go wide with shock. 25 kilos. She's never heard of such a large order from a single customer. Half an hour later, Chen Yang smiles, satisfied with his purchases. He figures this should be enough for now. In addition to the meat, his cart is now overflowing with 20 kilos of potatoes, 20 kilos of corn, and 20 entire heads of Chinese cabbage. The scene shifts back to Chen Yang's apartment, where he begins hauling the massive grocery haul inside. He sets the first heavy box down on the floor with a loud thud. Looking at the stack of boxes, he reflects that while his enhanced physique makes the weight easy to handle, the process of moving it all is still a huge hassle. He begins to sweat, realizing that if it's this difficult to move a small amount of supplies now, it'll be impossible when he's trying to feed hundreds of people in the future. Just then his worried thoughts are cut short. A bright, golden light suddenly erupts from the ring on his finger. He can only stare in shock as the light beams forward, engulfing the entire stack of boxes in a brilliant glow. As the light fades, the boxes are gone. Chen Yang stands stunned, wondering what just happened. His eyes dart down to the glowing ring on his finger, a wild idea forming in his mind. Don't tell me. He closes his eyes and concentrates, focusing his thoughts on the ring. In his mind's eye, he sees the boxes, floating safely within some kind of alternate space. He opens his eyes, pumping his fists in excitement. It's just as he thought, the items have been moved inside the ring. To test his newfound ability, he shouts the command, "Store." Instantly, the remaining boxes vanish in another brilliant flash of golden light. He then points and gives another command, "Retrieve!" Just as quickly, a box materializes out of thin air and lands on the floor. He grins maniacally, overjoyed by the discovery. The ring doesn't just let him travel to the wasteland, it's also a portable storage space. He's so happy he could kiss the ring. This solves his biggest problem. Just when he was stressing about logistics, the ring provided the perfect solution. Its service is unbeatable. With his problem solved and his inventory secured, he's filled with a new sense of purpose. It's time to head back to the apocalypse. His body dissolves in a shower of light as the ring activates, teleporting him across time and space. He rematerializes in the desolate, dusty landscape of the wasteland. Without missing a beat, he retrieves one of the large boxes from his spatial storage, making it appear beside him. However, he decides he can't reveal this incredible ability to anyone just yet. To avoid raising suspicion, he'll pretend to carry the items by hand when he meets Li Lu. Meanwhile, in a rundown shelter, Li Lu tears open a pack of spicy strips, the ones Chen Yang gave her on his last trip. She licks the last of the savory sauce off her finger, not wanting to waste a single drop. Closing her eyes, she savors the delicious aftertaste. The flavor is a rare and fleeting pleasure in this desolate wasteland. She clasps her hands together, almost like a prayer, wishing she could have just one more pack of the precious snack. But her brief moment of pleasure is immediately replaced with regret. Properly sealed, non-perishable food is an extremely precious resource in the wasteland. She looks down at the empty wrappers, realizing her mistake. She just wasted a valuable lifeline. She jumps to her feet in a panic, calculating that if she had rationed that single pack of food, it could have kept her alive for another day in a desperate situation. The full weight of her decision hits her. She traded a priceless enhancement potion for a bit of gold and some snacks from a man who might never return. Fear grips her as she imagines the severe punishment she'll face from her own organization. After all, any group with a stable food supply would never be as wasteful as Chen Yang had been. Her spirit sinks as she resigns herself to her fate. It was all just a beautiful dream. He was never coming back. Just as she loses all hope, a figure appears in the doorway, stumbling under the weight of a giant cardboard box. It's Chen Yang. He groans, asking her to come and help him with the heavy load. Overwhelmed with joy and relief, Li Lu shouts out, "Boss," and launches herself at him. The impact sends them both tumbling to the ground, and the contents of the boxes spill out across the dusty floor. Landing on top of him, Li Lu is just happy that he actually returned. Tears of relief stream down her face as she admits she thought he was lying and would never come back. Chen Yang, flustered by their position, asks gently why she would ever think he would lie to her. Through her tears, she explains the enormous risk she took. She traded a Tier 1 enhancement potion for a pile of what her organization considers useless gold. She was terrified they would punish her for the bad deal. He gently comforts her, patting her head and reassuring her that she doesn't need to worry. His status in his own organization is very high. He explains that a single pack of food is nothing to him, and he only took the gold because he actually has a use for it. Li Lu quietly accepts his explanation. With everything cleared up, he gives her a thumbs up and tells her to hurry up and help him pick everything off the ground. As Li Lu helps gather the scattered supplies, she picks up something strange that rolled out of the box. She stares at it, completely bewildered. Her eyes widen in shock as she realizes what she's holding. "Oh my God," she gasps, her voice filled with disbelief. "These are vegetables." She looks up at him, utterly dumbfounded by the implication. "Your organization can actually grow vegetables," she yells, unable to comprehend the miracle in her hands. Chen Yang scratches his head, confused by her extreme reaction. To him, it's just a common head of Chinese cabbage. Li Lu explains through her tears that after the Great Cataclysm, the soil became so polluted that vegetables can no longer grow. They're a legendary luxury. Seeing her so emotional, Chen Yang tries to calm her down, casually offering to give her all the vegetables since she likes them so much. Li Lu is so shocked by his generous offer that she's left blushing and speechless. Clutching the cabbage to her chest, she looks down, a wave of emotion washing over her. She kneels and presents the cabbage back to him, refusing his offer. She explains that the vegetables are far too precious for her to accept as a simple gift. She insists that while he's a good person for offering, she is now his employee and will only take the payment she has rightfully earned. Chen Yang is taken aback, confused by her sudden declaration of him being a good person. He decides to formalize their arrangement, explaining that he reconsidered her salary. Compared to useless gold, food that can actually fill her stomach is a much better form of payment. He holds out a large cut of fresh meat, telling her she can also mention any other needs she might have. But he adds with a sly grin that in return, her quality of service must also keep up. Li Lu clasps her hands together, a determined and slightly flustered look on her face, promising to do her absolute best to satisfy him. Chen Yang smiles, clarifying their new relationship. From now on, she is his personal secretary, and her first job is to answer his questions. She fidgets nervously, but agrees to the terms. He gets straight to business, explaining that he brought the supplies because he needs her help hearing more people. Li Lu is surprised, and immediately asks what kind of requirements he has for the new recruits. He tells her the two most important qualities are absolute loyalty and possessing some kind of special ability. Li Lu suggests they go to the nearby Gray Rat town. It's a settlement of 10,000 survivors, a place where you can find someone with just about any skill imaginable. Chen Yang recalls that she called this place Gray Rat District D. He asks for more information on its relationship with Gray Rat Town. Happy to share her knowledge, Li Lu grins and begins to explain the layout of the region. Li Lu pulls out a map and explains the local area. At the center is Gray Rat Town, which is surrounded by 12 smaller settlements, labeled A through L. She says that all 12 of these outer districts rely on Gray Rat Town to survive, and it's the central hub for trading any scarce supplies. Chen Yang has a very specific request. He wants to know if there are any programmers who understand computer programming, especially the kind who can make games. Li Lu just stares at him, completely baffled by the ancient-sounding word, computer. She asks if he's talking about the primitive artifacts from ancient times, picturing an old-fashioned desktop computer from over 200 years ago. Chen Yang smiles awkwardly. Judging by her reaction, finding someone with such ancient knowledge might be harder than he thought. Li Lu scratches her head, explaining that she's not sure. Before the Great Cataclysm, everyone was already using advanced Intel brains. But then an idea strikes her. She remembers there's a pre-cataclysm technical director in her district who knows Intel brain technology very well. Excitedly, she grabs his hand and starts running, exclaiming that she'll take him to meet the person right away. Chen Yang protests as he's dragged along, shouting that he can walk by himself. She leads him through the dusty, run-down streets of the settlement. As they walk, Chen Yang asks something he'd been wondering about. Why doesn't anyone here lock their doors? Li Lu explains that everyone is dirt poor, with nothing valuable to steal. More importantly, survival in the wasteland depends on unity. Anyone caught stealing or disrupting that unity is immediately discovered and exiled from all the settlements. They finally arrive in front of a large, silent building. Li Lu stops and points, announcing that the person they're looking for is right inside. Before they can enter, a creepy voice drifts from behind a curtain, chanting about yummy meat. Suddenly, a loud and wet splattering sound echoes from within, accompanied by a spray of dark liquid. Li Lu recoils in disgust before calling out, "Uncle Wei, I need to see you about something." A man with wild white hair and a monocle, introduced as the scientist Uncle Wei, peeks out from behind the curtain, holding a bloody axe. He cheerfully tells Li Lu she's in luck, as he's just caught a fat one. He grins, telling them to wait until he's finished processing his catch, and he'll share the 2 hind legs with them. Li Lu eagerly agrees, while Chen Yang looks on in horror, completely lost as to what they're discussing. He soon gets his answer as they step inside, revealing the source of the meat, a giant, dead gray rat. He stares at the grotesque carcass, asking if it's some kind of mutated creature. Li Lu cheerfully explains that besides zombies, these giant rats are the most common mutated creatures, and they serve as the main source of meat for the survivors. Getting to the point, she introduces Chen Yang as her new boss, telling Uncle Wei that he wants to hire some help, and the pay is very generous. Uncle Wei slowly puts down his bloody axe. He looks Chen Yang up and down with skepticism, wondering what kind of generous offer a young kid could possibly make and questioning if he's a scammer. Chen Yang calmly states that he needs to hire some technical talent in the cerebral field. Then he drops the bombshell offer, a monthly salary of 30 caddies of rice and flour plus 10 caddies of raw meat. Uncle Wei's jaw drops. Rice and flour are practically mythical in the wasteland. He asks in disbelief if Chen Yang is serious. Chen Yang smiles, confirming the offer and even saying he can advance the salary if Uncle Wei is worried. Stunned, Uncle Wei can only ask, "Really?" Li Lu chimes in enthusiastically, assuring him that as long as the boss nods, she can give him the meat immediately. All of Uncle Wei's suspicion melts away, replaced by pure greed. He grabs Chen Yang's hands, boasting that he is, without a doubt, the person who understands Intel brains the best in all of District D. Chen Yang calmly corrects him, stating that he misunderstood. The job has nothing to do with Intel brains. He then asks the million-dollar question. Does Uncle Wei know anything about personal computers, the kind from ancient times? He clarifies that what he truly needs is someone who understands that so-called primitive technology. Just like Li Lu, Uncle Wei is left utterly speechless, his mind unable to process the bizarre request. Computer. Uncle Wei is looking down on ancient tech, saying computers are primitive and have zero value in his world. Chen Yang doesn't care about the history lesson. He just needs to know if the old man can actually code. For a stash of rice and fresh meat, the scientist is willing to put his pride aside. Li Lu asks for the specifics on what kind of tech he's looking to build. It's nothing too crazy. Chen Yang just needs a custom software program built on a standard computer. The old man is shocked it's so simple, no handcrafting microscopic chips or anything. He's even more surprised when he hears he won't be designing some god-tier AI algorithm. Knowing the job is a cakewalk, he guarantees a 100% success rate. As long as the hardware is up to spec, he claims he can handle any programming requirement. But he points out a snag. Computer software isn't compatible with a wasteland Intel brain, so he's curious what Chen plans to do with it. Chen Yang tells him to stay in his lane and not worry about the why. He gives the old man a friendly pat, reminding him that the best employees are the ones who don't ask questions. Chen agrees to handle the hardware side and asks if there's anything else on the wish list. He assures the guy that as long as the work gets done, he'll never go hungry again. Uncle Wei mentions that having an Intel brain would definitely speed things up. He explains he can use it to craft the complex code and then just transplant it over to the computer later. They wrap things up and say their goodbyes as they head out of the lab. Once outside, Chen asks if getting one of those Intel brains is going to be a hassle. Li Lu tells him they aren't available locally, so they'll have to head over to Gray Rat Town, though it's pretty pricey. Chen starts sweating, wondering if the food he brought today even covers the cost. She quickly clears it up. It's expensive for a wasteland peasant, but for him, it's practically pocket change. Feeling relieved, Chen asks if they can also pick up some enhancement serums while they're there. She explains that Gray Rat Town only has the low-tier stuff. For the good serums, they need the Doctors Association. Chen's never heard of them and asks who exactly these doctors are. Turns out, they're a top-tier faction that holds a total monopoly on all the wasteland's medicine and healing potions. Li Lu is genuinely surprised her boss doesn't know about one of the biggest power players in the world. He plays it off, claiming his organization is so self-sufficient that he never bothered to look at the outside world. Regardless, he tasks her with heading to the association to buy a whole batch of enhancement serums. He tells her he's heading back to the modern world to grab that computer for Uncle Wei. But before he goes, he has one last serious instruction for her. He tells her that if things get dicey during the trade, she should ditch the food and prioritize her own life. Li Lu just stares at him, clearly moved by the fact that he actually cares about her safety. She gives a small nod, looking a bit flustered as she agrees. As the sun sets over the ruins, Chen Yang prepares to jump back to his era. Back in 2023, the room is quiet and exactly how he left it. He materializes in the middle of the floor with a sigh of relief. He can't help but laugh at the exchange rate. Hearing a genius technical director for the price of a few steaks is an absolute steal. He heads out of his room, feeling like he's on top of the world. He's literally dancing through the hallway, celebrating his new life as a cross-era mogul. But his victory dance stops short when he sees his roommate, Joe Dandon, lounging on the couch. The view is a bit too much for him to handle, and his nose immediately pays the price. Dandon jumps up, completely caught off guard by her roommate's sudden and bloody return. Dandon is absolutely fuming, calling Chen Yang a total creep and telling him to quit starring. She's completely baffled, demanding to know why he's home when she clearly saw his room was empty earlier. Chen plays it cool, claiming he was there the whole time and suggesting that maybe her memory is just a bit fuzzy. Sensing the danger, he makes a break for the door, promising to treat her to a nice dinner later to make up for the misunderstanding. The door slams shut behind him as he beats a hasty retreat before things get even more awkward. Dandon is left standing there, grumbling about how men are all just unreliable jerks. Once he's safely outside, Chen's thoughts turn to Shuya, who he knows is working part-time at Computer City after a failed audition. He heads straight for the store, hoping he can kill two birds with one stone by getting his hardware and supporting a friend. Inside, things aren't going great for Shuya. Some fat creep is hovering over her, trying to push some gross suggestion. The guy has a sleazy grin, telling her that if she just goes along with it, he'll finalize his purchase tomorrow. Shuya isn't having any of it, snapping back that this is a computer store, not some place where she sells her dignity. Right as the tension peaks, Chen Yang waltzes in and calls out for a salesgirl as if he didn't see anything. He casually asks Shuya to step over for a second, claiming he's got a technical question that only she can handle. She practically runs over to him, whispering that he's a lifesaver for showing up when that creep was pestering her. Chen jokes around, asking if the guy was just being a pain about haggling over the price. Shuya vents her frustration, explaining that the guy is only looking at a cheap PC and expects her to go out for drinks with him. She gives him a skeptical look, wondering if he actually came to buy something or if he just showed up to laugh at her situation. Chen clarifies that he's actually starting a game company and needs some seriously high-end hardware. He tells her he's looking for the ultimate gaming rig, complete with an RTX 5090 and all the top-tier specs. Shuya is floored, pointing out that their best build costs a staggering 100,000 yuan, and asking why he needs that much power. He sticks to his cover story about testing software limits, and she tells him to hang tight while she pulls the components. As she heads to the storage room, the fat creep is still hanging around, completely oblivious to what's about to happen. The guy is smirking to himself, thinking he's definitely going to wear Shuya down and get what he wants. He notices Chen Yang and tries to act like a big shot, mockingly asking what kind of tiny budget he's working with. Chen doesn't even look at him, instead pointing directly at the most expensive machine in the shop, the one with the 103,000 yuan price tag. The creep's eyes practically pop out of his head, unable to comprehend that someone is actually buying the store's crown jewel. Shuya returns with the massive box on a trolley, looking much happier now that she's making a real sale. She confirms the price is exactly 103,000 yuan and asks him how he'd like to settle the bill. Chen just pulls out his phone and scans the code, and a split second later, the payment is confirmed in full. The fat guy is left standing there clutching his head, his ego completely shattered by the casual display of wealth. To add insult to injury, Chen gives him a cheeky wink and asks if he wants to go out for a drink instead. Terrified and humiliated, the creep turns tail and sprints out of the store while Shuya watches in disbelief. The scene shifts back to the grim reality of the wasteland, specifically the dangerous streets of Grey Rat Town. Li Lu is moving through the alleys, but she's not alone. Several unsavory characters are already sizing her up. A thug with a mohawk and a robotic arm blocks her path, offering her some fun with a menacing grin. She doesn't even slow down, giving him a cold, not interested as she tries to pass. His partner, a guy with a weird cybernetic eye, notices her bulging backpack and starts getting greedy. Li Lu stops and gives them a warning glare, telling them in no uncertain terms to get lost before things get ugly. The thugs aren't taking the hint, threatening to get rough if she doesn't hand over whatever she's carrying. One of them flinches as the atmosphere suddenly gets heavy, sensing that they might have picked the wrong target. The guy with the eye implant realizes she's reaching for a weapon, and his bravado instantly vanishes. Li Lu lets out a dismissive HMPH and walks right past them, her mission far more important than some street trash. Li Lu marches through the desolate streets, her expression hardened by the harsh environment she calls home. She reaches her destination, a weathered building simply marked as the Wasteland repair shop. Inside, she finds Uncle Wei hard at work and wastes no time with pleasantries, telling him she's there for a smart brain. Uncle Wei looks up from his bench, quoting her the steep price: 15 kilos of meat for the base model, with extra for any add-ons. Without a word, she slams her heavy backpack onto the counter, the sheer weight of it making a loud thud as she agrees to the deal. He tosses the bag onto a scale and gives a satisfied nod, impressed by the quality and quantity of the trade she's brought in. Once the deal is finalized, Uncle Wei hands over the smart brain, a glowing, high-tech plate that represents a small fortune in the wasteland. As she leaves, Li Lu carefully tucks a smaller, even more precious item back into her pouch, keeping it hidden from prying eyes. Uncle Wei, his red eyes glimmering with curiosity, asks if the pretty lady has anything else she'd like to trade today. She doesn't even look back as she heads for the door, coldly telling him that won't be necessary. Her departure is watched closely from inside the shop, the atmosphere thick with unspoken tension. One of the shop hands asks if they should follow her, but Uncle Wei shuts the idea down, deciding she isn't worth the risk. Once clear of the shop, Li Lu breaks into a run, weaving through the labyrinthine alleys of the town to lose any potential tails. She finally pauses to catch her breath, her heart pounding as she realizes just how close she came to exposing her true cargo. She takes a quick peek at the fresh cabbage in her bag, knowing that even a glimpse of it could incite a riot in this starving settlement. Reaching a more secluded part of town, she arrives at another discreet location. Hopping the next trade goes just as smoothly. She steps into a dimly lit room where a silver-haired man is lounging, greeting her with a calm, practiced welcome. The man, known as the doctor, gestures broadly and invites her to look around and see if anything on his shelves catches her eye. Her eyes scan the rows of glowing vials, from basic meerkat and steel potions to Tier 3 enhancements. She isn't impressed, telling him that everything he's showing her is too basic for what she has in mind. The doctor chuckles at her audacity, warning the little girl that higher-tier potions are far beyond her ability to pay. In response, Li Lu reaches into her bag and pulls out the fresh, green cabbage, challenging him to look at her trade first. The sight of the radiation-free vegetable sends a shock through the doctor, his eyes widening in pure disbelief. In a flash of terrifying speed, he lunges toward her, his movements a blur that her eyes can barely follow. Li Lu is caught completely off guard by his sudden burst of power, her instincts screaming at her to react. She manages to pull her gun and prepare to defend herself, but she's already realized she's outclassed. She levels her weapon at him, demanding to know what he thinks he's doing by lunging at a customer. The doctor immediately stops and holds up his hands, a wide, unnerving smile on his face as he reassures her he means no harm. He begins to radiate a powerful blue energy, mockingly asking if she really thinks her basic firearm could stop a Tier 9 enhanced human. Panic sets in as Li Lu realizes she's standing in front of a Tier 9 distributor from the legendary Doctors Association. He lowers his power, his voice smooth and reassuring as he tells her that in the wasteland, the impossible happens every day. With a much more respectful tone, he reaches out and asks if he can get a closer look at the incredible item she brought. Still wary, Li Lu holds her ground but allows him to approach, keeping a firm grip on the precious cabbage. The doctor is practically shouting with joy as he examines the leaf, marveling at its vibrant color and complete lack of radiation. He begins to treat the vegetable like a divine miracle, his imagination running wild with the possibilities it represents. Li Lu cuts through his fanaticism, making it clear that if he wants it, he'll have to trade potions of equal value. The doctor's expression sours slightly, as he warns her not to get greedy and try to jack up the price just because he's interested. She doesn't back down, reminding him that fresh, clean produce is practically non-existent in this irradiated world. He admits she's right, acknowledging that the rarity of the cabbage makes its value almost immeasurable. He gives her a sly smirk, stating that while he's interested, he doesn't want to deal with a petty opportunist. After a moment of consideration, he tells her to relax, promising he has more than enough sincerity to make a fair deal. He reaches down and presses a large red button on his desk, signaling the start of a much more serious negotiation. The doctor decides to match her offer, declaring that he will show her his sincerity as well. He presents a set of glowing enhancement potions, ranging from Tier 1 all the way up to Tier 6. Next, he shows her a special healing potion, claiming it's powerful enough to cure any disease caused by cellular mutation. Finally, he gestures to the main attraction, a state-of-the-art carbon fiber bioarmor fresh from the source. Li Lu is absolutely dazzled, her eyes sparkling as she asks if all these incredible items are truly for her. Her excitement is cut short when the doctor nonchalantly tells her, of course not, sending her tumbling in a comedic heap of disappointment. He clarifies the terms, telling her that for now, she only receives the 2 sets of potions. Indignant, Li Lu demands to know why he even bothered showing her the armor if it wasn't part of the trade. A cunning smile spreads across his face as he explains that it was meant to entice her for their next deal. With a sharp click, he presses a button on his desk, concluding their current transaction. He lays out his conditions for the armor. If she wants it, she'll need to bring him even more vegetables to trade. Li Lu breaks into a cold sweat, stunned and wondering how on earth he could have known she had access to more. The doctor points out that the cabbage was far too perfect to be a mere coincidence or a singular find. He reasons that whoever mastered the art of growing such pristine vegetables would never stop at just one. Panicking, Li Lu attempts to cover her tracks by claiming she simply found it in some pre-cataclysm ruins. He doesn't buy it for a second, mockingly asking if she really thinks ancient ruins would preserve just a single fresh cabbage. He hands over the agreed-upon potions and tells her to head back and discuss the new proposal with her group. Relaxing into his chair, he remarks that to her people, survival gear like armor is far more valuable than any vegetable. Li Lu remains quiet for a moment before simply nodding in agreement. As she heads out the door, she tells him to keep the armor safe, promising to return for it as soon as possible. Once she's gone, the doctor muses on his exile and the power struggle he lost, feeling bitter about his current location. However, his mood shifts as he gazes at the cabbage, realizing that this lucky find might be his ticket back to the top. Meanwhile, back in the modern world, the bustling city streets provide a sharp contrast to the quiet, desolate wasteland. Chen Yang stands in a narrow alleyway, watching as a large delivery truck speeds past him toward the local supermarket. Chen Yang is back in the modern world, making moves. A delivery truck pulled up with a huge load of raw meat, and the driver wanted to know where to drop it. Chen just pointed to a spot in the back of a secluded alley and told him to leave it there. The delivery guys were a bit weirded out. One of them couldn't wrap his head around why someone would buy 20,000 yuan worth of meat all at once. The older guy told him to mind his own business and just get to work. Questions don't pay the bills after all. Once everything was unloaded, the driver took off, telling Chen to hit them up if he needed anything else. Chen stood alone with the mountain of boxes. He was glad this alley was a ghost town and, more importantly, had no cameras watching him. He knew he couldn't keep doing this in public. He needed a better way to stash his growing inventory. He activated his spatial ring, and a wave of energy washed over the boxes. In the blink of an eye, the entire pile was gone. The alley was completely empty again. He looked at his ring, worrying that someone might eventually catch him in the act. If he ended up trending on social media again, people would start digging into his life until he had no secrets left. He decided he needed to rent a private factory as a cover for his supplies. It was the only way to stay under the radar. He checked his inventory, looking at all the food he'd already stockpiled, from rice to snacks. He pulled out an ice cream and realized something huge. The storage space was in total stasis. He peeled the wrapper back and saw steam rising from the cold treat. It was exactly as he'd bought it. This meant he could store as much fresh food as he wanted without worrying about a single thing going bad. He started walking and snacking, but his phone interrupted him with a ring. It was the call he'd been waiting for. His new company, Chen Yang Technology, was officially registered and ready for business. He felt a surge of confidence. His real career was finally kicking off. When he got back to the apartment, he walked in on his roommate, Joe Dandon. She was suspicious immediately, asking where he'd been rushing off to lately. She jokingly asked if he was out on job interviews while he plopped down on the sofa. Chen just grinned and told her he didn't need to look for work anymore because he'd started his own company. Dandon leaned in close, completely blindsided by the news. She looked him dead in the eye, thinking he was trying to play her for a fool. He stuck to his cover story, telling her his family home got a massive demolition payout. That seemed to click for her. It explained how he could suddenly afford to splurge at the Regal Grand the night before. She slumped back on the couch, letting out a long sigh about how lucky some people get. She admitted that even if her own hometown got demolished, she wouldn't see a fraction of that kind of money. Chen suddenly covered his nose, looking a bit flustered by the view, and asked how much she was making at her current job. She sighed, complaining that she barely took home $5,000 after taxes. If it weren't for the free company meals, she'd be broke. She felt totally drained, wondering when it would finally be her turn to get rich overnight. Chen just laughed and told her that kind of luck wasn't going to happen to her. Then he dropped the offer. He asked if she'd consider coming to work for his new company instead. He leaned forward and promised to triple whatever she was making right now. He threw out a number that made her head spin, $15,000 a month. Dandon froze. She couldn't believe she'd heard him right. She immediately started doing the math in her head. At that rate, she could save a fortune every year. She got super hyped, thinking about all the hot pot and designer bags she could finally afford. Chen saw the stars in her eyes and asked if that was a yes. She tried to play it cool, crossing her arms and worrying about what would happen if his company went belly up. She adjusted her glasses, acting all professional, and said she'd need to see the situation before making any big moves. Joe Dandon pulls out a pen and notebook, ready to take this job interview seriously. Chen Yang explains that his company was just registered with $1,000,000 in starting capital, focusing on PC and mobile games. Dandon still thinks it sounds unreliable. She points out that besides having money, he basically has absolutely nothing else to show for it. She asks how a game company is supposed to function without R&D costs or a proper technical team. Chen just smirks, telling her not to worry. He claims that his unique situation is actually their company's biggest competitive advantage. He tells her the top priority is finding a suitable office building and getting the game publishing licenses sorted. She stands up and heads toward the door, prompting Chen to ask where she's going. She flashes a bright smile and says she's going to quit her current job, obviously. Chen is touched, seeing that she's actually backing him up with real action right away. Just then, his phone starts ringing incessantly on the couch. He picks up with a cheerful hello, expecting business news. But whatever he hears on the other end makes his face go completely pale, leaving Dandon stunned by the sudden change. Dandon asks what happened because he looks like he's about to pass out. He clenches his fists, trembling as he explains that his grandfather has been diagnosed with late-stage liver cancer. The doctors said the old man only has about a month left to live. He realizes he needs to go back home immediately to see him one last time before it's too late. Dandon immediately shifts into supportive mode, telling him to hurry up and pack for the earliest ticket home. She pushes him toward his room, promising to handle everything with the company so he doesn't have to worry. Chen gives her a grateful smile and thanks her for stepping up for him. Dandon is left standing there, looking a bit surprised by the sudden, heavy emotional shift. Chen tells her not to be so formal since they're roommates, and she just tells him to get going. He grabs his bag and slams the door, determined not to let his grandfather go just like this. As he walks away from the apartment, he realizes that the wasteland's enhancement potions might be the only way to save him. A short time later, he arrives at the Imperial Capital high-speed railway station. As he's waiting for his train, a familiar voice calls his name from behind. He turns around to see Lu Churen, an old classmate, waving at him with a big smile. She can't believe she ran into him after 7 years and starts chatting him up immediately. When she asks if he's heading back to Wangai City too, he confirms they're on the same route. The overhead announcement signals that ticket inspection for their train is about to begin. They head toward the gate together, surprised by the coincidence. Churen asks where he's sitting, thinking she can find someone to swap seats with so they can sit together. Chen checks his ticket and winces, explaining he bought it last minute, so only business class was left. Churen looks a bit disappointed, realizing they won't be in the same section of the train. Chen suggests that they can just catch up once they arrive in Wangai. But then he changes his mind, telling her to wait a second because he'll figure something out. Churen is left standing there with question marks over her head, wondering what he's planning. He walks over to the gate agents, telling Churen to stay put for just a moment. She's confused and calls out, asking where he's going in such a rush. Chen asks the attendant if there are any available seats left in the business class section. The attendant checks her system and confirms that he's currently the only person booked in his entire row. He tells the attendant to upgrade Churen's ticket and that he'll cover the cost so she can sit in the seat next to his. Churen's eyes turn into stars as she watches him drop a massive amount of cash just so they can travel together. The station attendant hands Lu Churen her upgraded business class ticket, reminding her to keep it safe for the journey. Churen is so overjoyed that she nearly tackles Chen Yang with a hug, thanking him profusely for the generous gesture. Chen Yang gets flustered by the sudden closeness, his face turning bright red as he asks what's wrong with such a big reaction. He quickly composes himself and tells her it was nothing, insisting she's more than welcome for the upgrade. Once they're settled on the high-speed train, Churen marvels at the business class cabin, noting how much more spacious and comfortable it is to stay in touch. They both pull out their phones and scan each other's profiles to finalize the connection. When they finally arrive at the station, Chen Yang tells her he has to visit his grandfather first, so the inspection will have to wait. He slams the taxi door shut, determined to make every second count as he heads to the hospital. Churen waves him goodbye from the curb, wishing him the best for his family emergency. She clutches her phone tightly, wondering if this fated reunion and potential business deal are almost too good to be true. Just then, her father pulls up in his SUV and calls her over, signaling that he's there to pick her up. She quickly jogs over to the car, pulling her bright pink suitcase along behind her. She hops into the passenger seat and gives her dad a warm greeting as they pull away from the station. Her father asks how the business negotiations in the imperial capital went during her trip. She tells him with a mysterious smile that she has one piece of bad news and one piece of good news to share. The bad news, she admits, is that she didn't manage to find a single new partner while she was in the capital. Her father looks concerned and asks her what the good news could possibly be after that. She excitedly tells him about running into Chen Yang on the train and his promise of a massive food order for their factory. But her father isn't convinced, warning her that an old classmate promising a massive order sounds like a classic scam.